It's 9:29, election night 1966. We in this studio are waiting now to bring you the result of the votes that have been cast throughout the day. But now, before we begin, the very, very first result of the night. Have we got it ready?
No, not quite.
The very first result of the night is just coming in on a piece of tape. We're loading it into this very special machine, which will bring to you and to us the results as fast as they possibly can brought to you. And there is the first result of the night: Hull City 1, Chelsea 3. A result, I think, that will have more electoral repercussions in Hull than they'll certainly have in Chelsea. But now, for the 630 results that are really concerning us in the coming hours. The information comes in, as you see, on this machine as quickly as we can get it. Once the news is in, it flashes right across, and it comes all the way across the studio, and of course it comes in to us and to you and to my colleagues. So, my colleagues, Ian Trussowen is waiting there to see news such as that come in. Robert Mackenzie, David Butler, Robin Day, Kenneth Harris. What happens in the next few hours, we shall comment on. We shall bring you those results as fast as we possibly can. But of course, the pollsters already think that they know how we voted in this. And if you look at their very latest results, you'll see that they vary from a Labour lead of 115 seats to a Labour lead of 250 seats. But in the final analysis, it's not the few thousand that the pollsters ask who elect a parliament and choose a government. It's us, the 36 million voters of this country, who've been today to the polls to cast our vote. Every returning officer will tell you, wherever he is, that it's accuracy, not speed, that counts. But traditionally, of course, there's always this race for who's first to declare. We've got our cameras out and about in the country in the 5 places which traditionally are usually in the van of this race. Last year, it was on the last occasion, 1964, it was won by Cheltenham at 2 minutes past 10. And it's to Cheltenham that we go first to hear from Derek Hart.
And here at the town hall in Cheltenham, crowds have been gathering since the polling stations closed just over half an hour ago, fully expecting that speed and accuracy will mean that, as often before, as for instance in 1964, that Cheltenham will be the first constituency in the country to declare its results. But the big question that hangs over Cheltenham tonight is what is going to happen to the Liberal vote. In 1964, there was a Liberal candidate who polled 7,500 odd votes. This time it's a straight fight between Labour and Conservative. There is no Liberal candidate. Regardless of swing, if those votes, the Liberal votes, divide 2 to 1 in favour of Labour, this could be a very, very close thing indeed, and the traditional Tory seat of Cheltenham could very well be in danger. Derek Hart at Cheltenham.
Mike Parkinson in Salford, where we can expect 2 results here shortly after 10 past 10. They get the results here quicker than most because of slick organisation and the fact that Salford's one of the most compact areas in the land. Shortly after polling finished at 9 o'clock, the first ballot boxes started arriving here at the counting rooms in the City Art Gallery and Library. There are 2 constituencies here, Salford East and Salford West. Both seats have been held by Labour since 1945 and with increased majorities since 1955. This is the very heartland of Labour, so there's unlikely to be any political fireworks here tonight. The real interest is in the speed of the count. Traditionally, always one of the first with the results, Salford set its own record in 1959 by declaring the results 67 minutes after polling had finished. But with something like that speed tonight, we should have both results here by about 10 past 10, something like 40 minutes' time. Mike Parkinson in Salford.
Well, here in Wolverhampton, we're enjoying 2 intensely competitive situations for the price of 1, because here in the Civic Hall, they're counting the votes of both the Wolverhampton constituencies. Of course, very much a personality vote being counted there, perhaps. A vote for him means a vote for powerlism and all that that implies. Let us now just flip over the dividing barrier and look down there under the balcony. There they are flicking through the votes of Wolverhampton North East. The Labour-held seat in the last Parliament. This is really short, and there is enormous competition here to see who can declare first. We don't know who's ahead. What we do know is that both constituencies will be declared within minutes of each other in just about 1 hour's time. Frank Boff in Wolverhampton.
The situation here at Exeter is a very interesting one, but particularly so for the analysts and for the forecasters. This is a Tory marginal set in an electorate in a very handy parcel of 54,000 voters. Coupled with this, there's going to be, or at least we expect there to be, an early declaration.
For the Billericay count, you join us this time not in the little country town of Billericay itself, but fittingly in this highly modern works canteen on the industrial estate of Basildon New Town, the development of which during the past 5 or 6 years has changed what has been a traditional, safe Conservative seat into an extremely marginal one. Last week, a local opinion poll gave Mr. Edward Gardner, the current Conservative member, a lead of 0.5%. In 1964, he held the seat with a majority of 1,592, but this time, more votes to count. No attempt at a fast count is to be made. We expect a result at about 11:30, but meantime, things are warming up outside. The count began at 9:30, and there is the Liberal candidate, Mr. Lionel Wernick, a local man. The Liberals polled 10,000 here in 1964. How will they make out this time? This is Raymond Baxter in Billericay.
Who then will be the first to declare? Now, those are just 5 of the places where we've got a great many of our cameras strung out. We've got them in all sorts of places. But, of course, news very often, on occasions such as this, comes to us in an enormous rush. They come from the news tapes of the Press Association. And, as well, we've got our own men on the end of telephones all over the country waiting to phone us in the news of results, news about personalities. And wherever it's happening, they phone it in here, and we in the studio learn about it on this, yet another, electronic device, which sends the news all the way around the studio. And you just write on it, and everyone sees it. And the results come in this way, on the tapes, on the telephone, on this thing. But the results are actually being dealt with by Ian Trethewyn, and this is how we shall bring them to you.
Well, this election is going to be won or lost in the marginal seats, the ones that are held by the smallest majorities. And in giving the results, we're going to give these marginals absolute top priority. We'll still try to bring you results of all the other constituencies and as quickly as we can. Whenever we get a result from one of these marginals, we're going to rush it up to the top of the queue. And we'll be showing these marginal results in a new and different way. We'll also, for the first time, be showing the running totals of the number of seats which each party holds at any given time. Now, just to show how this will work, let's take a moment in the last election, 1964, and see how we would be reporting it by our techniques this time. Let's take that crucial moment when Labour had won 315 seats and needed just one more to get that overall majority. At that moment, the running totals would have looked like this. And then we'd have had the news that they'd gained another seat. Labour gained, and then a headline would have spelled out that it was Meriden, gain at Meriden, which gave Labour their overall majority, which put them over the top. And then just a few moments later, we would have got on this new electronic system, tapped out as they were coming in the full detailed figures, Christopher Rowland winning the seat and the majority of 363. And then Labour would have clocked up another, to prove, vital seat in the running total. Now, that then is how tonight we shall be rushing you these key marginal seats, also the results from the seats of about 24 of the top personalities in the 2 main parties. The other results we'll be showing you in the normal caption, which you've seen before. Here, for instance, is how we would have shown, in fact did show, the result last time from a safe seat like Beckenham. Now, just to remind you how the parties lined up tonight at the starting gate, how they stood in the last Parliament, which ended just 3 weeks ago today. Labour, 315, Conservatives, 304, Liberals, 10. We've included 2 seats which in fact were vacant, one Labour, one Conservative. We have left out the seat of the Speaker. Well, in the next hour or 2, we will know just how much the millions of votes that we've all cast today will change those figures.
Well, as those millions of votes come pouring in, they go into this great monster computer. It's a Honeywell H200 series, which incidentally was made in Scotland for the electors up there. The card reader here down the bottom is where the information is actually fed into the machine. Behind us, the magnetic tapes on which is stored all the information about the 1964 election. 2.5 seconds later, the result comes out. And out with that result comes a great deal of data about the results. The information is vital to another part of our high-speed operation. It's that of analysis, prediction, and heading the team of analysis, here is David Butler.
The result, well, it'll be plain very soon. Because Britain is a united, even you might say a uniform country.
as one constituency goes, so go most of the other constituencies. As soon as the first result comes in, I shall say, well, if the whole country behaves like Salford West or Cheltenham or wherever it is, then the final majority would be. But I shall, of course, stress the if, because one constituency may differ in its swing by 1 or 2% from the national average. But once a few seats are in, I shall be a good deal less cautious. We shall all be willing to give you fairly firm statements, well, it looks like a majority of so much. However, we shall be able to refine our predictions steadily as the night goes on, because Graham Pyatt and a team of statisticians from Cambridge will be working very hard on all the computer output, looking at the different swings, the different trends in agricultural seats and mining seats, and in the north and in the south. And so we'll make it as plain as we can. But in case we confuse you with all our words and figures, there's Bob Mackenzie at the charts to make everything plain.
Well, here's the story on the swingometer as it will be coming in later tonight. The present position is that Labour has an overall majority of 3, that is over the Liberals, the shaded area, and the Conservatives. Now, if there is a swing of 1 voter in every 100 from Labour to the Conservatives, a swing of 1%, then the Conservatives can expect to have a majority of around 17. If, on the other hand, there is a swing toward Labour, and that's much more to be expected on the evidence we have, then each time 1 person in 100 has swung over from Conservative to Labour, the majority will grow like this. A 1% swing, 37 majority for Labour in the House of Commons. A 2% swing, something like a 73 majority for Labour in the House of Commons. Very approximate figures, but that's roughly where it's likely to lie. Now, the question is, where will the swingometer settle down tonight? It will lurch about undoubtedly. The figures may vary right across here for considerable time, but then it will begin to settle in. And as it settles in, we'll have the basis for a pretty reliable prediction as to where the majority is going to lie in the House of Commons. Now, where is it going to lie? Well, the best informed guess is always by the opinion poll people. Now, they're not magic, they can't foresee the future, but the point about the opinion polls is that they talk to a cross-section of the community. We talk to our family, our friends, our workmates. They try to find an exact cross-section. And here's what they've been saying in their final estimates of the likely outcome. If you take the final report of Research Services, which appeared in the Observer last Sunday, around a 3% swing to Labour. Something like 100 majority for Labour, give or take a few. The National Opinion Poll in the Daily Mail, pointing to around 3.6% swing to Labour, something in the vicinity of 120 majority, that sort of thing. The Gallup poll in today's television, or something in the vicinity of 100 majority. The Express, going right off our chart today, suggesting something like a 7.5% swing to Labour, and their record has been about as good as anybody's in recent estimates of results, and pointing to a majority well over 250. Now, what does it add up to? Well, let's say we average them out to around 4.5%, which is the average of these 4 national polls, pointing to something like 150 majority, which is about the majority Labour had in the 1945 general election. That seems to be the agreed finding of the pollsters. It's a repeat of 1945 if they're right in Labour's majority in the situation. Now let's look at the scorecards on which we'll be following this. First of all, the State of the Parties board. Now here the point to watch is that Labour must be, if it's going to be sure of forming a government, should have 260 seats of the roughly 460 we're going to be reporting tonight. So the first point is Labour, 260. They can't afford anything more than a couple of losses if they're going to form a government. The Tories, on the other hand, must hold Labour under that and must have at least 190 seats on tonight's results if they're going to have any chance at all to form a government. Looking now at the party lead board at 9:45, 3/4 an hour after the parties close, here the point is that the Labour lead over the Conservatives on that centre-black line will have to grow to 70. At present, of course, it's Labour equal to Conservatives because we've got no MPs at the moment. But as they begin to be elected tonight, it must read Lab lead over Con 70 if Labour is to form a majority. And undoubtedly, with the way things are going, it'll be much higher than that if the pollsters are right.